What is up, y'all? It's your boy Carlos, the Carlos Digital Show, back at it with another one. Glad you can join me. A couple of things to talk about in today's episode. Let's go a little bit about what's going on with WBD, what's going on in their schedule, what are they bringing to the table, what kind of clues are we seeing out there. It'll be interesting to discuss some of those things over the next few minutes. Maybe I'll talk a little bit about Amber Heard as Mara, what's going on with that. Maybe some random stuff at the end, but glad you could join me. Let's get on it. First of all, let's talk about Warner Brothers Discovery. As you know, the merger has been completed. It's been about a month or so. But prior to that month of having completed the transaction, they have been engaged with David Zaslav for months before that, where he was essentially reviewing the company and trying to see basically what kind of early adjustments he can make. We have seen changes, of course. We have seen some executives leave. We have seen Sarnoff leave. We've seen Jason Kilar leave. We've seen now some people from lower status like Joanna Fuentes, the communications manager, leave. So there's changes happening there. Obviously, the uncertainty in there is quite possibly severe. But I don't think that's the end of it. I think there will be more over time. You will see more consolidation, more adjustments. Obviously, not all the changes can be made in one shot at the beginning and with such little time. So, what's ahead for us, is a couple of interesting points about, what's coming. There's rumors about, significant changes. There's discussions about what to do with DC brands, all sorts of things, guys, all sorts of changes that could happen. You can't really get overly excited, but the fact that you're seeing change, that should get you excited enough about what could be coming. Obviously, a lot of DC fans at this point, true DC fans, not the quote-unquote real DC fans, but true DC fans, the people that, want to support the stuff that they've been seeing, when the shit was good. It's basically, they're basically looking forward to a potential restoring of the Snyderverse. So that's what I'm here for. That's what I want to see. I'm pretty sure that's what you want to see too. So, why not, right? So what's coming up next? Let's talk about the WBD Upfront event. So we have something coming up in 2 days for Warner Brothers Discovery. They have something called the Warner Brothers Discovery Upfront event, which will be at Madison Square Garden at the Hulu Theater. This seems to be the WBD coming out party, where they're basically going to approach the market. They've invited analysts and investors and probably reporters to take a look at that. I found a website where potentially you could be seeing the event via web stream. You can get up, you can try to get to it through WBDupfront.com. There's like a timer before the doors open, so you may be able to see some things already by tomorrow. Last time I checked, or let's just check right now, it says at the moment that you should have about 1 day and 14 hours. So there's still, a day and a half, almost 2 days for the doors to open, but you will be able to see stuff there. So let's see what kind of cool stuff they have in there. But just a word of advice. This is an event that's meant to interest people in their products and their brands and there's different offerings, but it doesn't really mean that they're going to reveal anything. Perhaps this is not exactly like a convention, like a fan convention where you can hype up a product. I'm seeing in the website that it's for Upfront 2022-2023, so it's probably what they're going to be able to offer right now. But make no mistake, seems to be an interest by WBD to go big on ad sales. So they want to sell ad space and ad capabilities to any potential investor. So I think that's what this event is about. And some of the releases, the advertising sales officers are making the comments about what's happening. So this could be like an advertisement reach out type of event where they will showcase all the brands. They'll showcase like DC and TNT, TBS, and Cartoon Network, like all those things that they have at their disposal. They're probably going to put them on the platter for potential investors. As you've noticed, there is WBD ad sales account that's promoting this advertisement with a countdown and everything. So what they're basically saying is that the presentation will showcase Warner Bros. Discovery differentiated and complete portfolio of content, brands, franchises, and talents to clients, agency partners, investors, sales side analysts, and press, the company added. So take that with a grain of salt. A lot of people are expecting that perhaps there's going to be announcements. I'm not so sure about that, but you gotta go in with a set expectations. You can't really get too excited because if you walk out without anything, you're gonna be a little bit upset. So just realize that from the looks of it, this could just be an offering of brands and products for not end consumers, but for people who want to advertise with their brands. That's one. But looking at the other side, the tinfoil hat a little bit, there is David Zaslav wants to make some noise, and this would be their coming out party to the market. And who knows, they could be wanting to make some noise and announce some things here and just make the best noise. We've heard before, David Zaslav wants to wants shock and awe. When they finally come in, they want you to be surprised, and they want you to take them seriously, essentially, as we haven't been able to for about 5 years now. So it's hard to tell, but I know that this guy, he likes to put on the show. They want to be taken seriously. They want to be considered as a big player. Obviously, they do have all the tools to do so. So, they are scheduling an event at Madison Square Garden. So they are making a big deal out of this. Let's hope for the best. I mean, there are a lot of things that are out there that's making us think, is something happening? Is this, is Zack Snyder's hinting something? Is Clay Straub hinting something? It's hard to tell exactly what's going on, but you should be excited. I mean, even if you walk out with nothing out of this event, they just show you some junk like, I don't know, The Flash, or Aquaman, Black Adam, whatever. You should still walk out reasonably happy that things are changing. This appears to be a different company with a different approach, and Zaslav, he has made some changes, and more changes will come. So I'll be kind of excited about that. Let's keep an eye out for what happens on the 18th. So it's about, like I said, a day and a half or 2 days from now. So once we have a clear picture about what happens in that event, I will most definitely comment on it. I'm actually quite interested myself. But we'll see, guys. Keep it fresh, keep it low key. Don't get too excited. Just show up with open mind. And if you don't walk out hearing what you want to hear, it doesn't mean anything other than keep it going, guys. This is a new group of people, and they might be listening. So don't get discouraged if that doesn't happen. Welcome back to the show, folks. It's your boy Carlos, back at it again with some good stuff. This episode seems to be mostly WB related, but it's just, that's what most of the action is happening right now. Everything else in the DC end of things is super quiet because the previous administration bores me to death, and there's nothing I can really talk about. And all the films have been delayed for like some time. There's not, a whole lot going on, but there is activity at the executive level that we should talk about. That there is interest about something that's happening, been developing over the past maybe two weeks or so, where you're starting to see perhaps some rumors and some chatter raising about where DC is going to go. So as you know, DC is a brand that traditionally was divided. There's DC Entertainment, who does the video games, comic books obviously, and the TV shows. And then there is Warner Bros. Pictures Group, who does the films. So they're kind of separate. And I noticed that there was a couple years ago when Jeff Johns and Diane Nelson were on their power trip, essentially trying to take over the entirety. I saw an interest for establishing that the TV shows were very successful because of what they had going on the CW in the early days of the Arrowverse. You had this sort of, nostalgic take once they wiped the New 52 out and they forced a rebirth in. Rebirth, in my opinion, was nothing but a manipulated attempt to say Jeff Johns knows how these characters work, and nostalgia and optimism is where it's at. So to me, that was forced, but that was part of an attempt to take over completely, because the films, that's where the money is, right? So the profit margins are severe. The investment is high, but the profit margins, or maybe not the margins, but the overall profit is gigantic. We're talking, potentially hundreds of millions of dollars. So I saw at some point in time that Diane Nelson and Jeff Johns, in their attempts to potentially take over, they may have commissioned certain articles where, the current state was to be criticized, but that the idea was that they earned their stripes in TV and film, on TV and in comics. They've been so successful there that they should be giving the film division. So to me, at that point, that's when I noticed that there was two streams essentially, where DC Entertainment is running in one side, and then the films are doing their own thing on the other, and they wanted to do that. So what's happened over time? CW, has been revealed to be a very poor financial operation. The Arrowverse shows have sort of, dropped their quality and the interest, and in their attempts to remain relevant or sustain ratings, they started doing some rather silly things that I just don't care about. I stopped caring about those shows a long time ago. Honestly, Arrow season 1 and 2 was the only thing that really caught my interest at the time. But I think those shows have run their course, and unfortunately, they've created this sort of subset of fans that all they do is just talk trash about the movies. So they're not really bringing anything. Not a lot of people watch that film, but watch that. But I did notice that there was a space between the films and the shows, and then as time has gone on and other competitors have basically come into the space, they've done it better. You have Disney, who has done it way better. They have a more cohesive unit. You have Disney Plus doing this thing. You have the films interconnected. They're like helping each other out. Everything is sort of in a synergy, and DC does not have that. DC has some sort of division. You have comics one side, video games on the other side, film on the other side, and then you have your television with low end production. So what's really happening is films and the TV shows are very disconnected. The quality levels are up and down, left, right, and center. I don't think that you should treat that IP as a well-cherished IP to be used under cheap circumstances or cheap production values. It just cheapens the brand. So if you're gonna go for it, you gotta go big, and that's basically my next point. So in this idea that DC is just sort of divided, you can see it in the Twitter. To me, obviously, it's not the real world, but it is a fantastic tool to be able to tell where there are congregations of people with common interests, and you can research it quite well to see that, in my opinion, there's your DC fans who are mostly your DC film fans. That's what That's where the strength is really on social media. But there's still, this division of the brand has created these sort of sub-factions. Tiny ones, CW ones, shows ones are not that big. Video games is non-existent, and there's the comic discourse, which there are some fans there, but it's divided. They're all in their own bubble, and they're all talking trash about one another. Really, that's all you see. And as a whole, that's not good for the brand, because there's no synergy, and whatever one side achieves, the other sort of suppresses or has no interest in pushing. So it's limited. So what one achieves, it just sort of stays there. That's not good. You have seen Disney, the way Disney's doing it. You have your Disney Plus shows essentially bringing in some sort of synergy with the film. So the fans have an offering, and they have something to talk about all year round, essentially. You have your your TV shows like Moon Knight or Falcon and Winter Soldier or WandaVision, and then in between those you're releasing movies, Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness, etc., etc., etc. So you have these guys well fed all year long, and then when they talk about one, they like the other. There's obviously exceptions and people talk trash, but for the most part, these people are all moving in one direction, and they're supporting one same stream of product and content that is all aligned with the brand, with Disney and Marvel. DC does not have that. As a matter of fact, DC has anything but that. So I think they've sort of identified that in some of the articles that have come out. They talk about that they need a DC that's unified. They may be able to do it even better. If you ask me, comics and video games, they're still sort of, when you look at Disney, they're still sort of on the side. And I've always disagreed that, comic books should be left sort of hanging. When they're such a rich environment and something that can sort of work connected. Comics have never been perfectly aligned to the movies. They may have like a special issue here and there that commemorates the release of a movie, or in the covers of the comic books they may say, oh, this movie's coming out, go check it out or whatever. But for the most part, they're not really connected. I would think that when you have a release of a film, you want perhaps comic book series that are aligned to that movie universe, that can get the people, somebody watches the movie, they may go online and look for a digital comic book about what they just saw, and they may be interested in purchasing that or purchasing more, and you have to get that synergy going, and they've never done it. Nobody has, to be honest with you. Same thing with video games. They always have like their own sort of spin-off, not spin-off, but their own separate things, their own separate take. You may have sometimes games about properties, but for DC, you don't really see it too much. You have like your Lego games, and obviously Arkham, and whatever you may have, but they're never connected, and nobody has done it in a connected way. So the way I see it is, you can connect them, and they all can sort of interact. DC Comics, they can still have their own series, and they're all like main, continuity, but they should have a pocket side to connect to the movies and to the TV shows. So I think they should basically think about that, and they should, the video games should be connected into this whole thing as well. We have like I love action RPGs, especially when it comes to superheroes. Marvel had like amazing ones with Ultimate Alliance, and if you had something like that, or something that connects to the movies, in some way, or unlock something. The Matrix, back in the day, they did it like such a cool job with. I can't remember the name of the game, but the game's sort of connected to the movies. They unlock certain things about the movies. Actually, if I recall correctly, some of the movies, the games, if you did certain things or you got to certain levels, you unlocked certain scenes that weren't actually in the movie, but that were obviously filmed while the movie was in production. So those things, if you can connect them, you can do something pretty cool, but you need everything to work in synergy and under one head. And that's not what it is for DC at the moment. So it looks like somebody has identified that, and some of the rumors, some of the discourse is that DC needs to be unified, and perhaps the production of DC films has to be shifted towards DC Entertainment. They should be under that umbrella. So I think that's probably the right move. I think executives trying to replicate a Disney formula without having the same capabilities or the same infrastructure is kind of idiotic, sorry to say, but what we've seen from DC the last couple of years has just been pathetic, sad, weak, useless. Is anyone talking about Birds of Prey right now? Shazam? No. The only thing people sort of remember with any type of fun is probably the Joker, which was a movie they didn't want to make. So you do need maybe some sort of independence. Let the creatives do their thing. If you want to do some shared universe thing where you're putting all these projects together, you need them to coordinate, and put an architect there, and let him do his thing. Hint, hint, Zack Snyder. So there's a lot of things you can do, but the rumors are coming out that they want to unify this. They want to connect this in an interesting way. So I love that. I would love for that to happen, and I hope these guys are as smart as they seem to be so far. And certainly, the rumors are going that direction. You're starting to see some things. You're starting to see that, you know what? They're sort of cleaning up the place, and they're moving in a particular direction. So to me, there's things like a rumor that, okay, fine, DC, you may unify it, but it will still be run under a studio head. Okay, All right, that makes sense. You need someone with the business savvy, and film is where the money's at. Theatrical releases, even during COVID, that's where the cash is at. So that's cool. Let's do it. I'm down with that. And then you start seeing all these rumors. Variety reported that Michael DeLuca and Pamela Abdi are in talks to join Warner Brothers Discovery as film executives. And this is corroborated apparently by multiple people. And then they're talking about multiple scenarios where maybe, DeLuca and Abdi may launch a movie label within the Warner Bros. Pictures group, or they may take roles in the division themselves. And they talk specifically about DC Entertainment in some capacity. Okay, that's interesting. You add to the fact that David Zaslav wants to maximize the DC output. They're coming up with probably some projects and announcements, but you don't really have that much at the end of the day. It's certainly not much that's worth your time or your discussion online. So that's interesting. So we hear from one side, that there is a goal, a creative goal that wants to be obtained by unifying DC Entertainment. Okay, that's interesting. There's other names coming up. I've heard Emma Watts from 20th Century Studios and Paramount that she interviewed for this kind of job, which is the sort of Kevin Feige role from a DC perspective. So that's pretty interesting. There seems to be some sort of traction to all of this in different reports that we've heard. I mean, when I say Kevin Feige, I probably don't think that they need someone exactly like him, but they need this sort of hierarchy and structure so that things work in a better way. I think last time, this was tried, it was probably not a good idea because Jeff Johns took over and the guy was a complete disaster and conflict of interest was severe, and we're still even dealing with the fallout from that ridiculous time frame where so much damage was done. But at the end of the day, they seem to be talking about this. They seem to be interviewing people. They seem to be bringing people. So that's interesting. So you have somebody like Mike DeLuca, who was already in the picture with WB at some point in time, simply because he was going to be brought in as a producer for the sequel to Suicide Squad. At some point in time, some of the people that were producing the Suicide Squad, the overall all the films, like Charles Rowan, revealed that it was a little bit difficult to handle the films, given that they're in different parts of the world. Some films in the UK, some films in Canada, some in the States. So it was kind of hard to keep up. And then this guy was going to join in. So he was kind of like going to be part of that group that was going to produce all these films back when they were taking them seriously. So this guy has some story, some history there. If you look up who he is, apparently this guy is a bit of a risk taker, and he has a very long pedigree, I guess, in the industry. So he's been seen as one top executive that could be making the move up, and that could be somebody that likes films of high level. So none of these like Peter Safran kind of stuff where you just do cheap, lowbrow, kind of annoying films that you forget as soon as you watch them. This guy may be seen something a little bit more dedicated and more detailed. So the guy certainly has a pedigree in the industry to come in. So okay, Mike DeLuca has some background. He may have been part of the inner circle that was going to be helping, take care of all these projects back when, there was some common sense at WB. Okay, that's interesting. So what else has been happening? Well, there was a big ball today. Big thing. If you're WB and you want to make some noise, and we all know that their reputation has been in a way damaged by what has happened with their executive team over the past 5 years. I'm talking about Day and Date. I'm talking about the Justice League Zack Snyder situation. You are talking about Christopher Nolan leaving the studio. You're talking about the disaster that the studio has been, the amount of money it has been losing, because it's just loss after loss after loss. It's the reputation is on the floor right now. It's on the ground. So now here comes this report today about what potentially could be coming. They're talking about it in actual detail. Alan Horn, yes, the ex-chief creative officer of Disney. Alan Horn, the very, very experienced and successful film executive, has been in talks with Warner Brothers to return to Warner Brothers. That's a big one. Alan Horn is not just some guy. This is a guy who has tons of experience. This is a guy who, he's certainly a name in the industry. And if you're Warner Brothers Discovery and you want to recover some of that prestige back, you want this guy on your side. You want to be able to display this guy and say, look, our decisions are being made by somebody that has experience, track record, and we know him very well. And that's Alan Horn. So there was an article that came out today discussing, can Alan Horn come home? Alan Horn has been in Warner Brothers, and he ran Warner Brothers back in its heyday when they had Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, the second and third Matrix movies. I think he produced The Hobbit. He might have. He was part of I think he was from 1999 to 2011 or something like that, and he was one of the top guys there back in its heyday. So when we talk about Warner Brothers, we talk about a prestige brand that it was a blockbuster studio, but it was also like kind of high quality studio, which is not at the moment. So to hear just his name around Warner Brothers, it restores prestige almost immediately. So somebody reached out to him and he said, yes, I have been in talks with David Zaslav. He is friends with David Zaslav. They met several times, and because David Zaslav, when they did the first tour, the first when the merger was about to happen, David Zaslav went around talking to different heads of in the industry to talk about perhaps what are the suggestions, what they think they should do. So this guy went and he was able to talk to Alan Horn, but Alan Horn revealed today that talks have gone further, and they did discuss the possibility of him being involved with the company and be an advisory role, a short-term role, some sort of position that may not be exactly a leadership position. I think that, because of his age, he may not want to be involved in day-to-day things, but maybe as a general overseer or as a top consultant to the company, he would do a lot of good. This is a guy who has been part of a lot of the projects that we believed in. He has good connections with everyone, including people that we like Zack Snyder and David Snyder, quite possibly Chris Nolan. The people that we've always liked, he seems to be okay with, and there's lots of experience. He made it happen in Disney, the whole, Pixar and Star Wars stuff and the Marvel stuff. He's a big part of that. He was basically Bob Iger's right-hand man. So for him to come in, perhaps he's not going to come in as the top executive, or perhaps he may be the top executive, but with delegated tasks, so that the day-to-day is run by somebody else, and he's just basically overseeing the creative part for the most part. So you could potentially, the same article says, he may be there to manage the talent of, all these people that are being recruited, like Mike DeLuca or Emma Watts, or, we'll see if Tove Emmerich can survive that. I don't think his ego's gigantic. I'm not really sure if he would see this as anything else other than demotion, but I guess we'll see. But this is somebody that's big. So again, interesting stuff. We're seeing this sort of recruitment of top-level talent to come to WB. So what we're probably seeing here is an acknowledgement that to get back to perhaps the glory days that we saw at some point from WB, bringing top-level executives, big players, you get somewhere. So one thing you should know about Alan Horn is that he is a guy that he likes to bet big in a couple particular projects. So he's not like a person who just divides the cash into tiny things here and there and just sort of averages things out. He goes big, and just like DeLuca, there seems to be a line in spending big, making big productions on things that make the most sense, and then much lower budgets for everything else. So that is good because we like that. We want that. We want that kind of product. We want those kinds of DC films. So everything I'm saying is very, very interesting in that regard. So there is a lot to see. Maybe they'll reveal that in the event tomorrow. Maybe not. I guess we will have to see if that's the case. But it's hard to tell at this point. But there is some traction. Something's happening. Alan Horn is also guaranteed to come in to help in some way. So you can use his image to say, look, we're back in the game. Forget about the past. We made big mistakes. This is new people, new management team. We're gonna make it work for everyone. And I wish them the best. I mean, I like the IP. You know, I know that they bought the IP to make something out of it, and the way that they've managed it so far is completely wrong. And WBD seems to have gone in a good direction. It's just a matter of time. You know, we need time for things to sort of play out. Some of these guys will not be able to join till later on this year. So we still are whatever ways to go before we see anything in the product. But who knows how far advanced things are. I'm just not sure at this moment. We just know that the culture is starting to change. Things are starting to happen. Some people that were useless to the company, that they were damaging or toxic to the company, have started to leave. So there is some sort of purge happening in there. But I guess we'll see. So, it's an interesting memo that went out by David Zaslav outlining WBD's focus on financial opportunities. So, as any respectable business person, they will have to look at what makes cash and what works above anything else. So, there was a memo that went out. I think it's worth mentioning because it applies. We can apply a lot of the things that he's been saying to a lot of the things that we have been saying for years. So this is one of the reasons I'm kind of positive on what's happening with Warner Bros. Discovery. As you know, I tend to give people the benefit of the doubt, but beyond a certain point, there's no traction to that, and I see it's not actually worth it, and I give up. And it's difficult to convince me back. So, I gave Jason Kilar, Ann Sarnoff, and Walter Hamada this kind of leeway for quite some time before ultimately being entirely disappointed. So I think these guys deserve a chance to show us what they got before we make any type of conclusion. But as from what I'm seeing so far, there is some traction to what they're doing. There's some intelligence to what they're doing, and this memo from David Zaslav to the company does apply to a lot of things that we have been saying for years. So to me, that part is interesting. I think one of the main things that we've seen is the strategy is completely wrong. Their culture is completely messed up. A lot of the things that they say and do just don't make sense. And this memo is quite interesting. I thought it was kind of worth mentioning for you guys here. So he says that they need to invest in their creative engines, that their goal is to reach an even bigger global audience with the broadest and most compelling offering of content across all platforms. To accomplish it, we'll invest boldly but also smartly in what we put on screens, big and small, and always with the intent to drive our business forward. So bravo, that's exactly what they need to do. One of the things that has been missing from this company, for the past few years is exactly that, is common sense in terms of what business really is and what drives business. I think, the DC universe has been completely misused, has been mistreated, and, the fans and the followers have also been wronged just as badly as the creators, because there has not been that sort of basic understanding that things can grow and that things can be there's a capability for growth in so many things, that some things is, you're just planting the seed and, that seed becomes into a plant. And, you saw it very well where at the beginning with all this like DCU unfortunately fell a victim to what I feel was manufactured hate and, a lot of online narratives about hope and optimism that would benefit other people to take over, the people that have failed since. But the lack of a steady hand of understanding that not everything is on the line just because you are having an attempt. Not everything is so intense that a mistake or a misunderstanding or something that doesn't perform exactly how you want it to doesn't mean that this is not this project is not something that can contribute to a greater thing. And to me, when you go from Managed Steel to BVS. I thought that was a great start. BVS obviously got screwed a little bit with the editing there at the end, but these things at some point in time, these sound like fake online narratives saying nobody wants this, nobody cares about this. Well, guess what? Look where we are years later. This thing has grown, on its own against the wishes of some of the people that run things there. So this is kind of wild, guys. Growth is a thing. And you can count on things to continue growing as long as you push them. All of this has been done without studio support. The only thing that we got was maybe 15 minutes of support from HBO Max, and and that was it. So people who don't have that vision that things can grow and that things need time, that a plant needs water to grow into something, they shouldn't really be running things, and you need that. That has been lacking over there, this sort of steady hand and composure. And another example I can find of this is Hayden Christensen from the Star Wars franchise. He's saying this week, I'm pretty happy that after all these years, people are embracing me, and these the young people that were coming up at the time, the people who made the movies for at that time, they've grown up and they're embracing me with such positivity that it didn't exist back then. So I'm like, yes, thank you. All this craziness that happens at the time and all these almost forced narratives. Yeah, we have the introduction of social media that has made this a little bit worse, but you can't just sit on the hate. You just have to look at what's the positives. Positive that you have the IP, you have the audience, you have an organized army of marketers online that are willing to help you. You can grow on these things. So grow them, invest boldly, invest in them, be smart about how you invest your money to grow the DCU. I really think that they have the tools to be able to do it. It's just the strategy, whether they can actually execute with intelligence or not, and I'm hoping that they are intelligent. Second point of the memo, establish a new WBD culture. They need to be a single, cohesive, collaborative culture and start operating as one team. We cannot make decisions and operate in silos and hope to be effective given the sheer magnitude of content and platforms to maximize to best serve consumers. So there you have it. You have all the DC is completely split, and I think this comment has a lot to do with DC. DC is completely split. You got to basically put it together, work in synergy. What one produces should be, assisting the other in some way or another, and if you have the movies, I'm sorry, but, Marvel, DC, all of you guys have sucked at helping comic books. You take the material, but you have not been able to push comic books onto people, and there's some really cool stuff. And if you were smart enough, you would take some of these projects that are happening right now and kind of insert them into the mainstream mindset, so later on when you make the movie about it, there's a lot of people gonna be excited. It's not that hard, guys, but you have to work as a unit. And I understand different divisions, different departments, different companies really within one same company, they tend not to collaborate, and there tends to be tension between them. So you need everything unified. I like that. I love that, actually. They're basically saying that they have to outperform the US ad sales up front. Yeah, okay, sure. We'll have to see basically what happens here. I hope they make noise. I hope they make some good announcements. I'm not keeping my hopes up, but let's see. They will want to work to a one streaming platform. They want to perhaps merge Discovery Plus and HBO Max, which is perfectly fine with me. We'll see how kind of acceptance it has, but HBO Max, guys, come on. It's a Disney Plus kind of a platform. You need to put the DC content that people want to see there that complements the movies. You can do whatever you want, You can make movies and then, some series that push you into the next project, or maybe even if you have a big project, like an endgame type of movie. Well, maybe just release some episodes that lead up to that, and then, that TV series ends up with a cliffhanger that will lead into the movie or something like that, so people go and watch it. You create that excitement. It could be different strategies, but HBO Max is a big player here, and Disney Plus is a big player for Marvel. Obviously, not all the projects are a complete hit with people, but like I said, some things will work, some won't, but you just gotta keep going. And even if the bad projects, they help you complement your overall offering. So You have to. The other point is focus on financial opportunities. They need to be guided by data and insights to understand what's working and what is not. It's also important that we work more collaboratively across businesses so that we are able to be strategic in our decision making and best serve consumers across all platforms. This will enable us to achieve a more efficient and impactful organization and stronger business overall. To support our pursuit of these ambitions, we have selected a broad group of your peers who are leading and contributing to our range of work streams underway. This is interesting. I thought we had this when AT&T came in and with all their analytics jargon and all that stuff. I thought decisions were going to be made by things that make sense. So that's not the case. That didn't happen. But here these guys are talking. They're talking the talk. You got to make business decisions. You got to make them based on data and insights to come to a conclusion what works and what doesn't work. It seems to me, from the DC perspective, of course, and from the film perspective, is that this company had been running on narratives mostly, on essentially, what can I say, you see things like, HBO Max saying the little things beat Zack Snyder Justice League, which is kind of ridiculous. I mean, you compare it to international streamers, not even close. I mean, it's hard to believe. Or some things where they say, well, Mortal Kombat, which just happens to be one of the fully financed WB films, just got more views than Dune and Zack Snyder Justice League together. That makes no sense. That Zack Snyder Justice League underperformed, that didn't sell. We knew that there were games and they were playing with the supply of the Blu-ray stuff. And when you compare the sort of view interest, you have Canadian streamers saying this beat Game of Thrones, and in the States they're saying not really. I doubt it. There's a lot of inconsistencies, and I know a lot of things were running on politics and needs, and there's no surprise. You have the CEO coming out and saying, the same weekend that Zack Snyder Justice League's coming out, they're coming and saying, well, we're glad this is done, and we're not doing the Ayer cut. These are all financial opportunities. People want this. They want to pay for this, and the data is there, but they were not making those decisions based on the data on what's working and what's not. They're making the decisions based on some personal interest from the executive. So that has to stop. That has to go. And you have to go in the direction that makes the most sense. Maybe that's why we saw that some company the other day was some marketing company was doing a poll as to who their favorite Batman is. That could have been them doing a little bit of research. I don't know exactly how this works entirely, but things need to make sense. So this brings me to my final and most important point about this section is these people, once again, they're telling you we're going to be looking at data. We're going to be looking at what's out there to see what works and what doesn't work. So you have to keep going. Now, some people say, I think the hashtag that's done, we've achieved, as best as we can. Man, shut the hell up and basically keep writing that hashtag. Keep basically doing your events. Keep telling them this is what we want. We've gone from different management teams to one that perhaps is going to finally listen that this is what they have to do, that this is what they want. You can have, all these bottom of the barrel, insect-like reporters that are just basically, acting like leeches, and they just sort of get on the hype train and they write the investment that these studios make. Don't pay attention to those guys. They want to downplay what it is, but these guys are not stupid. These guys are going to have all sorts of data and all sorts of information. So just keep being genuine in what you like, what you want, and keep making those impressions because it is working. We have made gigantic progress over the years. So don't stop and don't give up on this. And hopefully this changes for the future. Okay, and the final part of the episode today, let's talk about Amber Heard. Look, guys, you can think whatever you want. I don't care. court is going to decide what's going to happen. I know there's people gigantically invested in one or the other, but this is a libel lawsuit, so the court will decide exactly whether this libel lawsuit holds or doesn't hold, whether Amber Heard did something to purposely damage Johnny Depp's reputation. There's a lot of sensibilities behind this, but all I can tell you is one thing. At the end of the day, one group of people is going to be extremely disappointed. Facts will be facts. I tend to think that, a libel lawsuit is not just a personal accusation, is something very specific that can be proven. So if Depp's team can prove that Amber Heard did something, wrote something, and orchestrated something to damage his image, there's going to be some interesting repercussions from this. But what was interesting to me in relation to DC today is that the court started saying, Amber Heard is saying that her role in Aquaman 2 was reduced. So that's why I'm starting to think that all this publicity, even if Amber Heard were to walk out of this trial completely unharmed and winning the case, it's too late. In the public opinion, the court of public opinion, there's already a huge cloud over her head, and she is bad publicity. Whether she wins or loses the cases, she's bad publicity for the film already. Seems like they cut her down, and some places are saying that she doesn't have more than 10 minutes. If that's the case, guys, you can say goodbye to her as Mara. She's not going to come out as Mara in Aquaman 2. They're probably going to recast. I said, if you want to distract from this topic, which is probably quite uncomfortable for Jason Momoa, you may want to bring Emilia Clarke, and you can sell the Game of Thrones angle. They seem to get along quite well. And, Emilia has some sort of wholesome smile, and she can act as well. And if it's just 10 minutes, it should be you could do something. Not like they did what they did Tig Notaro in Army of the Dead, where you can bring somebody in for a little bit of investment. You can replace the actress. So I would do that, but you can forget about Amber Heard being Mara ever again. I highly doubt it. I think there's going to be more fallout from this case. So I think it's kind of over for her in that regard, and it's going to be interesting. I'm thinking if the Batman had a bit of a struggle in getting to 800 million, what can you say about the Flash or an Aquaman movie that has that publicity? That's going to be a tough choice to make. I think some of these movies, since they've been delayed, they should rework them into the current strategy and improve their quality level. I don't think they're going to be successful financially, so you need to involve them. You have to sort of rework them and put them under a new strategy. So hint, hint, Zack Snyder. Just do the right thing, but I'm not so sure exactly where it's going to go. I'm not really sure where that franchise is going. Will Aquaman perform as well as the last one? Last one did really well internationally, not as much locally. With all this bad news or bad publicity that they keep getting from the actress and her role in the movie and her personal life, that's a tough one. I probably not. I don't know how much they spent, but this could also be the end of what's his name? Peter Safran's reign as the go-to DC guy or producer or investor, I guess, for DC films. I hope so. I don't think they have next 2 months. But we'll see. I think changes will come, recasts will come. You guys have to get used to the fact that, maybe... I don't think it's the same case with Ezra Miller. Ezra Miller is, if he can kind of lay low or show, some sort of improvement or some sort of attempt at getting better, things might just sort of calm down in that regard. But it's possible that they may recast him as well in some time. But I think it's a lot harder to recast Ezra Miller in a $200 million project, who will probably be on screen for, I don't know how to say the movie's 2.5 hours, for easily an hour and 45 minutes to 2 hours of the movie. He is part of the movie, and we know he plays more than one character. Spoilers. How are you going to replace him? You can't do that. Amber Heard, a completely different story, and you probably have some sort of reason to kind of distance yourself from her, regarding, based on what the court case ends up being like. So, complicated, but I think these movies just put a stop to it, and rework them into a strategy, and then go from there. So we'll see how that goes. That being said, folks, I appreciate your time, appreciate your comments, your support online. You guys are the best. I enjoy doing this show quite a bit and just, talking trash a little bit here and there. So I appreciate your time, guys, and I will catch you on my next episode, which will hopefully be finally my Rebel Moon episode. I'm thinking also doing potentially some Stranger Things episodes. I really like that show, so I may be talking a little bit about that. So hopefully some of you guys can join me on that. Other than that, just send me a note if you guys have any opinions or any suggestions about what you would like to hear in my show. I'm very open, and I will do so. And as you guys know, I reply to almost all the messages that everyone sends me, so I appreciate your support. And guys, that is it from me. Appreciate your time. I will catch you next time.